What is going on? I am Cole. Welcome back to my channel. If you were here last week, you saw that I decided to promote a new segment that I'm going to be doing, and that is my Cole Recommends 5 segment. So if you want to see what I'm recommending this week, make sure to stick around through the intro. This is one I've been working on for a little bit of time now. It's something that I've kind of seen a lot of, and lots of people have done videos like this. So if you end up looking this up, I think you'll be able to find other videos and maybe find some other good information that other people have to say besides just me. So this is going to be Cole Recommends 5 new tips for either new collectors or new comic readers, just people getting into the comic book world. I know that I do a decent amount of stuff on the card world, and I know people have watched some of my comic videos and said, hey, you know what? I love comics and I like you showing off these comics, but I really don't know anything about it. So I think hopefully these 5 tips should help you kind of either enjoy the hobby or figure out the hobby or maybe get into the hobby in a new way you didn't think was possible. So the first one is going to be fairly easy, and this is just a general idea for really anything in a hobby. When you get into comics, you know, sometimes it can be overwhelming. I would say the biggest recommendation is just figure out what you want to do. So like there are tons of stuff and tons of different ways. You know, do you want to get runs of books, or do you want to get keys? Do you want to go for slabbed books? Do you want to go for raw books? Do you want to get omnibuses? Do you want to get trade paperbacks? You know, there's so many different ways that you can either collect or get books or accumulate books. So I guess just kind of figuring out how you want to collect is probably the best way. You know, if you're a reader, probably runs are going to be the way. But if you just like comics because of the art, sometimes maybe getting slabs is the best way to do that, or getting key comics, right? You know, the hard thing with this is that comics, I would never really recommend them as a way to make investments. While some of them could pan out to be good investments, I would just say, for me personally, I'm not going to be able to tell you how to do that, but I would just kind of say, figure out how you want to read, or how you want to collect for that matter, because that will really kind of help you figure out how you want to go. I know it's easy. The biggest recommendation I can have is go into a shop, find some cheap books that look cool. If you have a character you like, maybe go for them, or even go into your local comic shop. Say, hey, you know what? I like this TV show or this movie. Do you have any ideas of books that you might have that I might be able to read? And they can help that way too. Second tip. This is a tip that I think I have watched at least a dozen of these tips for new readers, new comic collectors, whatever, what have you. And this is one that I don't think very many people use. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever had it, because every time somebody's like, what is a tip that you think I've missed? This is one I always had. And it is utilize your local library. That sounds crazy, but if you're going to be a reader, the local library is the perfect spot for you. You know, my local library has a giant manga and comic collection. They have both like an adult comic section and one in the teens that is based on like superheroes and stuff like that. But even my library has single issues for certain books. So like I know Batman was one, Paper Girls, Saga, The Walking Dead. You know, there are certain books where they pull the single issues. So if you want to read them, you can check out that single issue. Granted, you know, it's not going to be a 9.5 copy and you're not going to be able to slab it or own it. But if you don't know what you like, this is a great way to kind of go through and do that. Another thing I rarely recommend is if you're using your local library, I use Hoopla. I love Hoopla. It is great. You only get, at least for my library, it's kind of based on your library, how many checkouts you get, but you get 10. And I think that is great, actually, because, you know, I get about 10 digital things. I usually get them on my Amazon Fire, and I can just read them really quickly. And, you know, even stuff that I want to reread, maybe I don't want to pull out all like 20 issues of a certain run. I can just download them on Hoopla, read it really quick, and get my reread ability. I'm going to post another video right up here. So there's a guy named Crane Comics. He goes through how to set up a Libby, and I think this could be helpful too if your library utilizes Libby. This is a good idea. I think he even says that you can get a library card from the New York City Library, and you can just get books from this. So maybe check that stuff out. But yeah, I know too, my library sometimes has sales. They'll sell graphic novels or even loose comic books for discounted rates. Granted, the only issue is that they will have that little ugly library sticker. You can probably remove that, but it could cause damage. So if you're really just looking to read, that's also a great place to go. This is kind of another weird one. But hey, it is a tip that I think when you become into comics, it's a great idea to learn. And really any sort of collecting of any sort, you should figure out a budget, because that's the hard thing. When you start getting into it, if you're really into reading, you might start adding stuff to your pull list, and it just builds up. Sometimes you have to cut stuff, and it gets hard sometimes. There's certain books that you read, or like, let's say you're pulling this book like Edge of Spider-Verse or something like that. Well, there's a chance down the road. Maybe there's a spider character here that I don't want to lose or miss out on. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices in some ways, whether it be either selling books to get more money for books, or, just figuring out. But you should set a limit, because even some of the things for collecting in the hobby can get expensive. If you're buying nicer books, Mylar bags are better to store your nicer books in. That being said, they cost more money than your standard bags and boards. Plastic comic book carriers are so much nicer than the standard cardboard ones. But once again, those are 5 to 10 times more expensive than the standard cardboard counterpart. So, it's just, if you set a budget, you can kind of collect without going out of your means. This is one that I personally even have a hard time myself, but I just figure that this is one where, for new collectors, sometimes you just want to get in. You want to read everything. And, down the line, you're going to eventually either get into having this pull list that's way too big. You've pulled way too many mystery boxes, and now sorting your comics is hard. Set a budget. Hopefully it helps, figure out how you want to collect and where you go. But I think that's one that is, kind of one of those things that should go without saying. But it does get hard sometimes to really do when you start getting passionate about something. So I've alluded to this a few times, but maybe people that don't know about this have not really, maybe people who are here don't really know what I'm talking about. And that is the pull list. So what is a pull list exactly? Loosely, if you go into your comic book shop, you say, hey, these are the books I want. They will pull that book off the shelf, put it in a box, and they will hold it aside for you. There are multiple ways to do this. So it kind of depends on the shop you go to or what happens. Some shops just give you, hey, if you get a pull list, we give you free bags and boards. Hey, if you get a pull list, you get 10% off. My shop does 10% off and bags and boards, which is pretty cool. But there are also certain places that you can go and get these online. So I know, I personally use Gmart. The thing I like about Gmart is that if you save up to about $85 worth of books, they will just ship those to you in media, and it's free. Some people, if you're just reading some of the books, usually the books I get there are stuff that I like, hey, you know what? I want to kind of read this book, but I don't know that I necessarily need it, and it might not come out in trade. That's the kind of stuff I usually get from them. That way, I have a copy of it in my collection, but it might not necessarily get here in a 9.8. It might, the hard thing with mail, even the best comics aren't going to be, even in the best protection. Sometimes there's ways to be damaged. I know that I've shipped very good, and there are certain times where, just because a postage person didn't care, that comic gets damaged. So that's one of the things you lose. But I would say, a lot of people get discouraged. Maybe they find a comic shop, but the comic shop doesn't have indie books, or it doesn't have, as many Marvels, or people are buying stuff off the shelf, so they don't get to do it. Normally, if you create a pull list, this will help with that. And, it helps the shop know what to buy. That way they're prepared to kind of go with trends on what to get and what not to get. Some people will get discouraged. They might go to a comic shop and not like it. That's where I would recommend maybe looking into online things if you really want to get into this hobby. Or, maybe you live in the middle of nowhere. Maybe the closest comic shop to you is an hour away. That's probably not very feasible to go to weekly, but there's other sites. I know mycomicshop.com is one that people use. And there's a bunch of other stuff. I would say talk to other people in the community. If you're watching this video, my Instagram's down below. I'll have plenty of more recommendations after I record this, and I'll find some people just to kind of let me know, are you looking to get stuff weekly? Do you not care when it shows up? That's the kind of stuff that probably will be a better answer, but I can give you some recommendations to some online comic shops that should be helpful too. I know some comic stores too will ship too. So, one of the local comic shops in our area will ship, and I think they only charge a certain amount depending on how much you want. Or you can go to the biggest amount, and then they'll just charge one flat rate. And the final one is going to be just kind of ways to find discounted reading. So there are plenty of sites out there. One that I really like is called In Stock Trades. In Stock Trades, I think, is normally every book that they have. And these are only trades or omnibuses are going to be 35 to up to 75% off. So you can usually get them discounted, and they're still really good. They do a great job of packaging too. I think you have to spend $50 to get free shipping. But if you're buying trades and omnibuses and you kind of wait, that's a great way to do it. Another thing is, eBay, right? If you don't have a shop that you can go to, sometimes you can find cheap deals on eBay. I know that I have my eBay down below. I usually sell runs for around $1 less than everyone else is selling them at the time. So, if there's a certain book that you want to read, sometimes you can find those pretty cheap on eBay. They do upsell, but there are other sites too. I know, like Whatnot, there's Drip. There's a ton of different sites out there, Mercari even, that you can buy used books at a cheap rate that should be able to help with this. Another thing that I think there's two services that people don't really utilize as much, and I'm personally one of the people on this. If you have a nicer tablet, like an iPad or like, a nicer Android device, you can get Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe. It probably has I think it's like DC Universe Infinite Prime or something. They change the name every year or something, but you can get those sites for like $100 a year. And you're thinking, wow, that's a lot. But when you really break it down, if you're reading like 10 books a month, you're really saving there, buying digitally into that thing. The one thing with Marvel is they are 3 months behind for new releases, but hey, sometimes there's certain books that I have sitting upstairs that I bought 6 months ago and still haven't read. So maybe I should consider doing that myself. I know that DC recently just changed to, I think, 1 month, which is crazy too, and also a very awesome thing. So those are great sites. And even Comixology Unlimited, the difference between that and Hoopla is you just get a big, vast variety. The only downside to Comixology Unlimited is that they loosely want you to buy some of their books. So usually what they do is, let's say there's 5 volumes in a series. They might allow you to have the first 3 for free and then maybe buy the next 2 just so you can get into it. But hey, maybe you can use that and then go to Hoopla and get those downloaded there from Hoopla for free. Another site that a lot of people don't talk about for digital reads is Humble Bundle. They're mainly a site used for video games, but occasionally they have these big bundles of books. Sometimes I've gotten indie ones. I know they've done Dynamite ones. They sometimes do like a franchise. So like, here's a bunch of Doctor Who books. Here's some Predator stuff, It kind of is really random what they do, but the price, normally you're spending like $9 for a ton of books. I think I got all of the issues of The Boys on there, and then it was like a Garth Ennis one. So I got all the issues of The Boys for like $10 or something crazy. And they also are donating some of that money, not only to the authors of the books, but they're also donating it to charities. So it's a pretty cool site that I recommend. And maybe there's some other weird things about them, but I'd have the link probably to most of these sites down below. And this has been kind of, evolving and different every time I talk about this. But I think these are kind of my big 5 recommendations for new comic book readers. So once again, it's just kind of figure out what you want to either read or collect, or how you want to do that. Make sure you utilize your library for reading. Use a budget. It's hard to do, but please do. Find a pull list if you can, because that will help you save. And also get discounted or digital books whenever possible, if that's, to help out. So these were kind of my big 5 recommendations. If you have a recommendation that I did not list, I would love to hear it, because, I want people to be able to come in the comment section, maybe see some other stuff. I know that I missed a bunch of stuff, but these are how I collect, how I read. These are some of the things I do to save money and enjoy collecting. So I thought that I would spread them on to you, the community. So everyone here, thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe if you can. Or if you like these tips, please hit the like. If you didn't, hit the dislike, but also let me know what I could do to improve. And also, this was me recommending 5 tips for new readers. As always, I've been Cole. Peace.